Shalom, family. Let's quickly have a look at just a piece of Matthew 24, and then I'm going to show you something. Matthew 24, Jesus walking with his disciples. They're asking him, about the end times and what are the signs going to be. So sits down on the Mount of Olives, beautiful place. I'm going to do a video on that as well. Been there, incredible. From verse 4, and Jesus answered and said to them, take heed that no one deceives you. Deception. I'm going to do a whole video just on that. Is one of the major signs of end times, and that means as well deception in the church. They are believers of Christ. What deception should they take heed of? Those from amongst them that will try and deceive them ahead. False teachers. For many will come in my name, saying, I am the Christ, and will deceive many. And we've seen many false Christs rising up over the last decade or more, and they're everywhere. And you will hear of, and this is what I want to highlight for you, wars and rumors of wars. See that you are not troubled, for all these things must come to pass, but the end is not yet. For nation will rise against nation, and kingdom against kingdom. And then he carries on famines, pestilences, earthquakes, and he lists all of them. And again, we can break each little piece up into individual videos because we're living in those times. But let's go back to, you will hear of wars and rumors of wars, and nation rising against nation, kingdom against kingdom. Now, the interesting thing here, again, whole separate video, nation against nation here in the Greek is ethnos, ethnic group against ethnic group. And is that not something they're driving all over the world now at this end time point? Constantly trying to drive a wedge between different race groups. Wars and rumors of wars, kingdoms against kingdoms. Iranian lawmaker says Tehran has possession of nuclear weapons. I've been saying this for a while. We know this is a fact. They're besties with Russia and China. Why would Russia and China not have hooked them up with a nuke a while ago already? Okay, even if they didn't make their own, or aid them in the making of their own. And why would they publicly say we have it, just to get blasted by the rest of the community for having it? They'd rather just use it when they need to use it. After the head of the United Nations Atomic Watchdog Agency warned that Iran has enough uranium to produce several nuclear bombs, a firebrand Iranian lawmaker declared on Friday that the Islamic Republic of Iran possesses atomic weapons. In my opinion, we have achieved nuclear weapons. We do not announce it. It means our policy is to possess nuclear bombs, but our declared policy is within the framework of the JCPOA, Amat Bakshayesh Ardestani told the Iran-based outlet. The JCPOA is an abbreviation for the Joint Comprehensive Plan of Action, the formal name for the Iran nuclear deal, which people should know about. So there we go. Start with that on the wars, rumors of wars, kingdoms against kingdoms. Iran has got nuclear weapons. Accept it, park it, put a pin in it. There it is. Next. Putin orders tactical nuclear weapon drills to deter the West. Russia said on Monday it would hold military exercises that will include practice for the use of tactical nuclear weapons after what the Defense Ministry said were provocative threats from Western officials. Why practice, why test if you're not going to actually do this very shortly? The ministry said the exercise was ordered by Putin and would test the readiness of non-strategic nuclear forces to perform combat missions. The military drills will include practice for the preparation and deployment for use of non-strategic nuclear weapons, the Defense Ministry said. Missile formations in the Southern Military District and Naval Forces all took part. During the exercise, a set of measures were carried out to practice the issues of preparation and use of non-strategic nuclear weapons. So Russia testing and prepping that everybody that works with her nukes is ready and able and willing to do what they need to do at a moment's notice as soon as the order comes down. So they're all prepped, they're all ready, they have the weapons, they're good to go. Prepping for something that is coming. It's not a maybe, it's a definite. Jumping into the sky over Estonia, British paratroopers train for confrontation with Russia. Britain's 16 Air Assault Brigade and the US's 82nd Airborne Division will be part of a rapid reaction force if the confrontation between the West and the Kremlin spirals into open conflict. More than 90,000 troops are engaged in military drills in 7 countries ranging from the Baltic to the Balkans in preparation for this scenario unfolding. Now, I was in the paratroopers as well back in the day. When the paratroopers are being prepped and ready to go, to deploy, they are going to be right in front. In Afrikaans, they call them vleisbomme, meat bombs, because they're coming out of the sky and they're going to hit, and when they hit the ground, they're going to be able, and they're going to be at war and doing what they need to do. They prepare the way. There's all your paratroopers prepping and training for this direct confrontation that's coming at the moment, right on Russia's doorstep. Now, you don't think Russia sees this, reads the same articles I'm reading to you, and feels that tension rising up to even be more prepared with their own Spetsnaz and everything, and their own paratroopers and their own nuclear weapons for what they know is coming. Wars, rumors of wars, kingdoms against kingdoms, nations against nations. Germany is considering conscripting all 18-year-olds amidst fear of war. Military planners are discussing 3 potential plans, 2 of which involve a compulsory military year for all men once they turn 18. It is understood that officials are in the final stages of discussions with the German Defense Minister Boris Pistorius and expected to go public with plans next month. Mr. Pistorius, during the trip to Washington last week, said he was convinced that Germany needs a form of military conscription. He previously described the country's decision to suspend compulsory military service in 2011 as a huge mistake. And in one proposal, proposal number 3, being considered by the planners, all men and women would be subject to conscription once they turned 18. So pretty much what Israel's doing, they're going to conscript their men and their women into military service. Ukraine's doing the same thing by sending women to the front lines now. War is never fun, and it's not a nice place. And now we're not just grinding up our young men into dust, we're sending the woman as well. And Germany is not going to be the first. There's going to be more and more countries that are jumping on the bandwagon as they realize America might not be there to come in with all her forces and help them, depending on who wins the elections or whether America even survives the upcoming attack. And they have to stand on their own. And can they really rely on NATO without America and be strong enough? They need to start conscripting their people and preparing for war. Nordic military operations highlight NATO's preparations and preparedness to attack Russia from the north. Now again, Russia sees this. Russia reads these articles, and they wonder why Russia's getting more and more aggressive and threatening all the time, wouldn't you? Recent months witnessed levels of military activity in the Arctic regions of Norway, Sweden, and Finland unprecedented since World War II. Sorry, because we're on the verge of World War III. Now, in my opinion, World War III is already being fought. It's just a slow takeoff, and the rest is going to come into it really, really soon. One major NATO exercise has followed another, with tens of thousands of troops participating, while the US has expanded its bilateral defense agreements with all 3 countries to create a massive American staging ground for an invasion of Russia from the north. During the first 2 weeks of March, 20,000 NATO troops from 13 countries participated in Nordic Response 2024. Nordic Response was part of Steadfast Defenders mobilization, a maneuver involving 90,000 NATO personnel that began in January and will extend into June. The area of operations stretched from the Arctic through the Nordic and Baltic regions to Central Europe. Again, not defending Russia or anything she's doing, but saying I would feel the same way if they had that many men practicing with all of their weapons on my doorstep. What are they practicing for? Invading me. How would you react as a leader? you would ramp up the rhetoric and the threats, you would prepare all of your weapons, you'd get your nuclear response teams ready, you would make sure your submarines like the Belgorod are missing and in the ocean and off the coast of your enemies' countries and ready to go the minute I pick up the phone and give the order. That's where it is. The world's a tinderbox with this wars and rumors of wars. NATO cannot survive without America. If Trump pulls out, the alliance would likely fall apart. The US Congress is so concerned it recently enacted legislation to prohibit a president from withdrawing from NATO unless Congress approves, either by 2/3 vote in the Senate or an act of both houses of Congress. Europe remains heavily reliant on the United States in several important areas and on its own lacks many of the key tools necessary for successful defense, including airlift capabilities, air-to-air refueling, high-altitude air defense, space assets, operational intelligence, all supplied by the United States. Without American help, NATO would lose much of its military edge over Russia. Europe's defense industry remains badly fragmented, and developing the needed defense capacities to compensate for the loss of American backing would take the remainder of this decade. So, past 2030, without America. One more reason why America, China, North Korea, Iran, these countries, axis of evil if you want to use World War II terminology, would want to wipe America off the slate completely. You remove America, you destroy it from within and without, you launch tactical nukes, you paralyze the whole thing completely and destroy it. Suddenly, Europe's standing on its own, floundering. They can't come to Israel's aid when Israel needs it. They have to look after themselves. They have to rally together. They have to come together in some sort of a coalition or a group, and they really need to focus on the enemy. These are all things unfolding in front of our eyes, mentioned by our Lord as signs of the times that you're living in. You will hear of wars and rumors of wars. You're hearing of these every day. These are the most recent articles, last few days, up to this morning. Makes me excited because we're going home soon. More encouraged to spread the word and get out there. Shalom.